Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Horse's Mouth Live. My name is Ellen Rogin, and as always, I have great information to share with you to help you in every area of your life, especially your business. And I am super excited about our show today. Our guest, Spencer Sherman, I'm going to give you his formal introduction in a moment, but I had known of Spencer for many years because I'd seen his articles. He used to write for Mindful magazine and knew of him. And we met via LinkedIn. I can't actually remember the process of how that happened. And he's as cool as I hoped he would be before I met him. And he agreed to be on the show today. And the conversation today is really about how to incorporate more mindfulness into your practice, how to incorporate more than just the numbers in working with your clients. And Spencer is not only deeply practiced in mindfulness and meditation, but he's the founder of Abacus Wealth Management, which is a very, very large RIA in the San Francisco area. So he speaks from a place of actually having used these strategies not only to make his life better, but his practice and his work with his clients and his team better. So it's going to be a great show today. Let me give you a little bit more about his formal background. Spencer Sherman, who is, of course, the CFP, also an MBA. He's the leading financial advisor, CEO, author, and public speaker. He's known for his mindfulness-based approach to leadership and finance. And he's the founder and former CEO of Abacus, which is a values-driven financial consulting firm managing over $3 billion with B dollars in assets. And he's transformed so many people's lives by helping them have a healthier, stronger relationship with themselves, with their money, and being effective leaders and achieving financial success on their own terms. So, Spencer, thank you for being here.
Oh, it's wonderful to be here, Ellen.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about your background, because it's not this, deep practice that you have. I have not seen any other advisors that I follow or know of that have the kind of background you have. So fill us in a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, it occurred to me early on that I thought of this iceberg metaphor and what I recognized is from my MBA training and from my beginnings of being a financial advisor is there's this visible part of the iceberg, what's above the waterline. And that represents all the mortgages and taxes and investments and insurance and cash flow planning, and all of that is so important. And yet what I became aware of is that's all that we talk about for the most part. And that's what we think drives the success. And then what I started noticing amongst my MBA friends and colleagues, amongst my clients, is that the people that had all that together, that knew everything about all the numbers, about all the tax issues, were not necessarily successful with their finances. And it occurred to me that there's something below the waterline. And what's below the waterline are our emotions, our fixed beliefs about money, these beliefs that we inherit when we're 3, 4, 5 years of age. And sometimes we're not even aware of these beliefs. Like I wasn't aware of a belief I had until I was in my 20s. I realized I had a belief that money is more important than anything. That kind of fixed belief is a problem. It's not a problem if you just hold it loosely, but when it's held in a fixed way, it led me to do some very crazy things with my finances. So this iceberg really gave me the sense of this much fuller picture of money, and it became really exciting to me. I mean, I had a strong psychology background, but I was very strong in math. And I realized this profession is the perfect profession for me because it combines both. And both are so critical. And I could even make a case, maybe even the emotional intelligence that we bring to our finances may be actually more important than our sophistication with the numbers, with the financial concepts.
100% agree. And I had the same awareness when I was in my 20s, starting my financial advisory firm. And the thing that was so interesting to me was how people made decisions and how somebody with lots of money could be worried or, afraid they're going to lose it all. And And I had a belief that I recognized early in my career, which I'm so grateful I recognized, was that what I saw and heard growing up around money was that that was my dad's job. Like, he went off to work. I grew up in kind of a traditional household where my mom stayed home and my dad went off to work. And fast forward into my 20s, I had started my own firm in my 20s, and yet I had this unexamined, transparent belief, like, oh, that's Stephen's job to make money. And further, I probably couldn't even do it, even though I had lots of letters after my name as well. And what I'm grateful for is when I took that from back here under the water in your metaphor about the iceberg, then I could go, oh, that doesn't even make sense. Like, that I can't do that. So sometimes my experience has been that it's just that easy to get rid of an unaligned belief if I just sometimes even know it's there. Sometimes it's a little bit more tricky. But do you have so these beliefs, these things, these emotions, how do you have a process or a way that you recommend people start to explore that? Like, because it is an unexamined thing. They think if I just learn more or set a better budget, everything will be okay.
Yes. I mean, the first thing, as you said, Ellen, is you became aware of this belief that, okay, he's supposed to make the money, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing the belief that you shared, but that awareness will start to soften this belief. And then I often recommend a compassion practice, having sort of this way of holding this belief in a lighter way, like not trying to get rid of the belief. I find to be more powerful and healthier than actually trying to eliminate it. So the belief that money's more important than anything still lives in my mind, but it's no longer controlling me. I have awareness of that belief. And just like you said, once you have the awareness that the mind is going to produce a certain belief, you don't have to follow that train of thought. And this we also learn from mindfulness, right? That we have these trains of thought while we're doing a meditation practice, a mindfulness practice, and we're like thinking about dinner. And like, wait a second, I don't need to think about dinner right now. It's going to get handled in a few minutes once I finish this mindfulness practice. And it's the same with these beliefs. They no longer have to control us, so that when a friend is now saying to me, hey, Spencer, I want you to invest in my company, I no longer feel this intense stress. Because if I don't invest in my friend's company, I'm a loser. Because money's everything. Maybe I'm even going to lose the friendship, but clearly I'm a loser because he's showing me the projections and how many millions of dollars I'm going to make. And that 100,000 is going to turn into $50 million. And how could I not do it? And then I'm in a place, Ellen, where if I do it or I don't do it, it's horrible. If I do it, I live with the stress of being in this investment that probably isn't going to do very well. And if I don't do it, it's the stress of missing out, the FOMO of missing out on that thing. And I've done that several times, invested in a friend's company. All of them have gone to zero, I have to say. But it was coming. The most important thing is that what drove me to make that decision was not my Wharton education. What drove me is the fixed belief that overrode all the calculus, all that training that I've had about what's a good investment. All that was out the window. I was more allegiant to this belief. And that's what I'm seeing with my colleagues from business school, with my clients, is if we can, as an advisor, if we can understand some of those beliefs that our clients have, if we can really listen, to the subtext of what they're saying and get to those core beliefs, we have an opportunity to really help them in much more profound ways. We have an opportunity to understand why maybe they're not investing their money the way they should be, why they're keeping so much cash. I mean, all of that can really help us be much more effective, compassionate advisors and create those deeper connections with our clients.
For sure. There's so many things I'm thinking now I want to ask you about. Let's roll this back for just a moment so that if this comes up again, people will understand when you say a mindfulness practice, what do you mean by that? And also what might you suggest about that?
Okay. So, you know, I spent many years, I'm going to confess, many years having a mindfulness practice was mostly about checking off a box because I want to be a good boy. I want to get straight A's. I want to do life perfectly. And if I brush my teeth and do my meditation practice and call my clients on their birthdays, everything will be fine, right? There'll be no ups and downs, no volatility, no pain. Nobody will die in my life. That was what I was sort of out to do. And then I realized, wait a second, this mindfulness practice is for real. It's not about checking off a box. It's about really doing it. And the word that has been coming up for me is a strange word. It's not very kind to interrupt another person, but to me, mindfulness is about interrupting ourselves, interrupting those trains of thought, interrupting the ruminations. And there are so many moments for some of us, definitely for me, where I find myself in that rumination. Is this client going to leave? And I'm like, in that rumination, that recirculating of that thought for 30 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes. And that's when I need to interrupt that pattern as soon as possible. And the more we do that, the more we open up space in the mind, the more we create new neural pathways, the more likely we are to see a path for that client that's different than what we had previously thought. Maybe it's like, oh, I'm gonna figure out something around their financial plan. I'm gonna come up with a new option for them for their financial, for their life or retirement or something. That's much more helpful than just staying in the rumination. So that to me is like, if I had to recommend anything in terms of mindfulness practice, is do it every single time you find yourself lost in thought or repeating a pattern that is not helpful for you in the mind.
So what might that practice look like? I'm like ruminating. Why haven't they responded? Why have they ghosted me? Why hasn't this person followed up, or whatever we spin about?
Okay.
It's interrupting that, disrupting that. What might that look like? What would I be doing?
Several good ways to interrupt. So one powerful way, and there's a lot of evidence and studies around this, is journaling. Is as soon as you notice yourself in that rumination, take out your phone, set it for 3 minutes, and just write until that bell goes off. Just write. It doesn't matter what you write. Write, I don't know what to write. Write, I'm ruminating. I'm worried about this client leaving. I'm worried about the markets. Just start to write. And that will move the thoughts from being lodged in the mind out onto the paper so that you get some perspective, you get some looseness around it. Another thing you can do is talk to someone, say that, just acknowledge that I'm having this train of thought again. The other thing you do is do something like I just mentioned, do something that might be very, that might be proactive. Like what's the thing that this client might want me to do right now? What can I do about the fact that the markets are going down, for example? And maybe it's just being with the feelings. So instead of staying in the rumination, a mindfulness technique is to actually sense the sensations underneath the words, is to go from language to the body, to move from the head to the body, is a powerful kind of almost a cure-all practice for when I'm in rumination. If I start sensing worry in the body, the physical sensations of worry takes me out of worry.
Gosh, I love so much of that. And this idea of journaling in the moment, I think is super helpful. And I would say I'm an early morning journaler. I've gotten lots of inspiration from my journaling. And I think once when I was under huge amounts of stress, I would do that. But what a great way to just pause in the moment, in addition to all the other things that you're saying. Or I know you live in a beautiful place. It could also be taking a walk in nature, or yes. I was smiling because before we went live, you're like, I hope there's not ambient bird sounds. Like, that's how lovely of a place you live in.
Yes.
My
Yes.
office, I can hear, I'm like, I hope there's not ambient highway sounds. So it's not
Yes.
necessarily nature sounds where I am.
But that's a
And
great idea. Just taking that walk. It's like anything, like we all know, we know ourselves well. And when you're in a more calm mind state, like let's say right now, just write down a list of the 10 things that would help you break a cycle of rumination or break a cycle of negative thinking or unproductive thinking. Write that list down, and you know the things that contradict your patterns. That to me is so powerful. And we have many, many opportunities every day. And that's one of the things I love about money, is that it comes up so often for all of us. So especially if you're a financial advisor.
yeah, so let's go back to talking about with clients and for advisors to look at this, money has such a charge for so many people. There's fear and shame, regret, worry that people have. How can advisors support their clients in being more grounded and clear? And I also feel like it's helpful as advisors to be really self-reflective on this, because they're not immune to any of those thoughts. And so I'd love to hear your suggestions for working with clients, and then also how an advisor might work with some of these negative emotions themselves.
Well, I think that's great what you're saying, because so much of it is modeling for our clients. I mean, I think I've often found that, I'm not a psychologist, but I think there is a bit of transference that happens with our clients, that they see us as the parent. They're looking for us for that leadership. They're looking for us for that guidance. And we represent the role model for money, even though, of course, many financial advisors have a lot of chaos in their own financial lives. It's imperfect, right? But the more that we can be that model for our clients, so when the markets are going down, we need to do our own inner work so that we can cultivate that sense of equanimity, that sense of balance when, things are stormy. When within our office we just lose an employee, can we find equanimity in that storm? The more we can do that, the more we're sending that message of calm to our clients. So that's one way to help our clients. I think another way is to recognize that it's universal, that our clients are feeling guilt or shame, that it's universal, that even if you don't, as the advisor, maybe you don't have such a big feeling of shame, to start recognizing that feeling of shame of, losing all your money or not growing up with any money. There can be a lot of shame around some of these issues, or that my brother or sister makes 10x of what I make. That is going to cloud my ability to listen to you, financial advisor. So it's like that recognition is so helpful. Like, just something small I found really helpful, Ellen, is I often I used to just start my meetings right away. And I know you often start your meetings with a couple of breaths. Well, I make sure that the client is ready to speak about money, because I know that they're walking in with that shame, that fear. So I want to sort of acknowledge that in the beginning of the meeting and give it a little bit of space, so that their attention is right here. So they're not sidetracked with something else, or this fear like, oh my God, I can't tell him that I just spent all this money on blank. So that was a simple thing that I did that has made a big difference for me and the other advisors in the firm, is really creating that space in the beginning of the meeting and making sure they're with you, and lessening the talking, increasing the listening, getting curious. And there's something called beginner's mind that I think has been really also very potent. And this also really gets at some of these difficult feelings that a client might be having. Is beginner's mind comes from this Japanese word called shoshin. And it's really about bringing curiosity instead of answers. And that's not easy for me, for many of us advisors, because we're full of answers, we're full of knowledge, and our minds are crowded. And beginner's mind is about having a spacious mind. So maybe doing a minute of breathing or mindfulness before you walk into the meeting, so you can move yourself into that more spacious, unbiased mindset. And from that place of curiosity, more will get shared by that client, more safety will get created.
You have an initial like prompt question, a client comes in, you haven't seen them for a while, to create that spaciousness or to let them download some of those things that are spinning in their mind?
Okay, so the first thing I do is I greet them. Well, now we're so much on Zoom, it's a little bit different, right? Although in my office in Northern California, the clients actually want to come in. There's been a change in the last 6 months. They want to come in the office. I'd say the majority want to come in the office. But, let's just say you're on Zoom. I just say, is this time still good for you? Anything you need to handle before we get started? And then how are you feeling about your finances right now? How are you feeling about the last few months since we spoke? Anything that you want to share that you're having some, worry about, or some concerns about, or difficult feelings about. I just give them that space before I launch into, let me tell you about why our diversified strategy is so amazing. So it's that putting the focus on them. I'm also asking, is there any agenda item that we should add, that because I sent you the agenda last week, and like most clients, you didn't respond. I wouldn't say that part. But is there anything missing on the agenda that we need to add in? And I have scrapped my own agenda for their agenda. I'll say, you know what, we didn't get to my agenda. Let's schedule another meeting to do that at another date. But that, I used to think my agenda was the most important, and now I'm clear it's their agenda. And if they want to talk about their worry over their parents spending money, even though there might be some more pressing issues time-wise, I'm going to talk about that.
That's
So
great.
I think those are some examples. Yeah, I think that beginner's mind has been really powerful with clients. And I think the other thing that I've been focusing on clients is this idea of enough, this mindset of enough, is helping them see, because for most people, especially in this culture, there's never enough. There's always a sense of wanting more. As soon as you get to 1 million, you want 5, then 10, 20. I mean, it just doesn't end, right? You get to first class, and then you hear about someone who says, no, I don't do first class anymore. I fly privately. And then it's like, no, I don't just fly privately. I fly with the best jet stream, jet, or something. So how do you cultivate this sense of enoughness? So I'll often share stories from my own life, from other clients' lives, with clients, to show them that nothing's going to happen by just getting to some number. It's not going to lead to this ultimate happiness. And that really what I'm here to do is help you find ease with your finances right in this moment, so that there's not like we have to get to some retirement goal. Like, yes, we're going to be moving towards that goal, but I want to create that sense of financial sufficiency right now, as soon as possible. So moving, that has also, that creating more of that sense of presence with clients, that present moment focus, has also helped clients let go of some of that fear of the future.
Yeah. No, that's so great. And I imagine when advisors get to a certain level in their career, it could be the same thing. Like,
well, that's right.
How much is enough? I'm so inspired by the fact that you passed on the CEO role to someone else at your firm.
It was enough. It was enough of me.
Well, but there was a very conscious, I would say, mature. I don't mean in age mature, but I could see you have a very prestigious large firm. It seems to me the idea of bringing other people up, making sure the firm has longevity past you, like, that's not an easy thing for many people to do. So I really do want to acknowledge you with that. And it's really walking your talk about looking at what's enough and what other things are important to you in addition to the work that you do with the firm.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's so well said, that I realized that I was getting attached to the CEO title. There's a bit of ego in that, and that sense of control. And then realizing who's the best person for the job. It's definitely not me anymore. Because as we moved from 20 people to 75, now approaching 100 people, I don't have those system skills to run a firm like this anymore. So it was a great decision. We've got two CEOs, two women running the company, and I'm in a role where I can flourish. They're in roles where they can flourish. So I think you're right, that enough mindset is actually, it sounds like a boring term, but it's actually I think it's a boundless idea, the idea of an enough mindset, because when you're in that place, then you're not grasping for your goals. And when you're not grasping for your goals, they're more likely to happen. So I think it's the same with our clients. Like, if we can help ourselves move to a mindset of enough, we're going to transmit that enough mindset just by being a model for our clients. And then maybe it's questions to our clients like, well, you're earning $500,000 a year in this tech job. I want to just do a check with you. Is this job really fulfilling you? Now, I know earlier in my career, when someone's making $500,000, saving $100,000 or $200,000 a year, I'm only affirming that job. I'm loving all this extra money coming in, increasing the AUM, the fees and everything. We have that bias. Sometimes it's subconscious in us, and it's not necessarily anything evil about us. It's just, it's also the culture we swim in of just more is better. And now I'm sometimes gently challenging a client or asking a client, does this tech job still make sense? I mean, I had a client who decided not to stay in the big tech job, and she found so much more. She said, actually used the word abundance in her life because she had enough. We did the projections. She had enough, and now she just has so many more options in her life, like time. She's got much more time in her life. And that's a precious, finite, thing, that resource that we have, right? So it's that kind of thing. It's reaffirming to that client, you actually have enough, and telling them you have enough to do philanthropy. Yes, you can keep accumulating money, and you're moving from maybe first class to private jet or something, but it's getting across that message very clearly, because it takes a lot to penetrate most of our minds because we're so addicted to the more thing, right?
Yeah, and that circles back to the beginning of our conversation of just being aware of what you're thinking and feeling. I want to make sure we have just a little bit of time left, but I really want to talk about this idea of mindfulness in meditation in our practices. I mentioned to you before we got started that my meditation practice, I think, was the most, if I had to pick one thing that was the most important in my success when I had my firm, it would be that. And still, I won't leave. You said, I brush my teeth, I meditate. I cannot not meditate in the morning, even if I'm running late or for whatever reason. So I'd love you to talk a bit about how you see this playing in, if this is something you incorporated. Abacus, I know you run retreats for advisors, which I so love. So I'd love to hear you talk about the importance of this, how you've worked in your own firm with this, and what you offer for advisors.
Yeah, sure, Ellen. So I do mindfulness sessions every morning at Abacus. And we do that and we have a different theme every single month. So this month, the theme is presence. And I think if there's one word that's the most important word for financial advisors, it's presence. Because so much of what we offer is difficult to differentiate, but your presence is definitely distinct. And that presence, that ability to connect, to hear what's the subtext of what the client is saying, to sense the emotions underneath what they're saying when they're talking about the markets or something, and go more there than just to a cognitive answer, that's going to skyrocket your practice. That's going to lead to, to retention. It's going to lead to bring on new clients more. It's going to lead to more referrals, because people want that presence in us, and we all have it. And mindfulness brings it out, because we're interrupting those patterns, that rumination, and we're also creating this spaciousness in the mind, this this openness, this ability to see things from new perspectives with mindfulness. We're no longer in the same old, same old. So that is just very refreshing. It's like that mindfulness teaches us to greet each moment as if it's brand new, right? And that anything's possible in this moment. And if you can see that client that way, that you've been seeing for 10 years as a new person, that's might be a very different meeting. Yeah. I want to hear from you also, Ellen. What do you think has been so powerful for you about mindfulness?
I think you had referred to this earlier, that we bring ourselves to meetings, and there's a term which of fear pheromones. Like, we can stir people up without, even if we think we're acting calm, but that's contagious, and so is calm. And we know that people make better decisions when they're coming from a place of calm. And in my own practice, besides the fact I think it was really helpful with my team, I never had anybody quit in 28 years. I had people retire. I think it was important with my clients. And even now, I still have wholesalers that used to call on me saying I was the most calm advisor they ever met. And I'm still friends with every one of them that I had a relationship with. So I, really appreciate that practice. It just helps me deal, and it helped me at home too. If I wasn't meditating near the beginning of my practice, my family wasn't calm, because I think we put that out. Tell us a little bit about your retreats, because I will say, before you tell this, I got trained in several different types of meditation, and I think the formal training was super helpful for me to get a practice that I could sustain. So talk about the retreats that you lead.
So I started a meditation practice over 30 years ago. I started doing long silent retreats because I needed that strong medicine, because I had to interrupt some of my patterns, especially around money. And I went towards mindfulness because there's so much science around the benefits of it creating new neural pathways, spaciousness in the mind, more creativity, etc., more a calmer nervous system. And so an advisor reached out to me and said, I know that I need to become more emotionally intelligent, but I'm not. I'm good with the financial ideas. And I heard about you. I heard that you've had this, decades-long meditation practice. You've been teaching meditation outside of financial circles for decades. And I'm wondering if you could start teaching something to financial advisors. So that's how it all started. And that was about 10 years ago. And I've been leading these mindful advisor retreats. I do them for financial advisors, lawyers, accountants, therapists. And they're 24-hour retreats where we let go of our devices. Just doing that is a miracle, right? And we start training ourselves in listening in different ways. In how do you say no to a potential prospect that you don't want, that isn't the right one to work with? We start to raise our emotional intelligence. We start to learn how to respond to the emotions underneath the words that the client is saying. So we do all these practice exercises. We also do some trainings in direct mindfulness practices, so we can start to feel the difference between a very crowded, cluttered mind and a more spacious beginner's mind. And that is very refreshing to feel that. And, here's what comes from that is advisors discover that when you hold a meeting with that beginner's mind and you can get the client to come up with solutions, the client surprisingly, ironically, appreciates the advisor more when they come up with something in the meeting. You in some ways, I feel like our job is to create the environment for the clients to have inspiration and insights into their own lives and finances. And when we do that, we're just like on a whole nother plane. So I do these retreats about 4 times a year. I host them in Northern California at a fabulous place that's right on the Pacific Ocean in the Marin Headlands. So we go hiking. We do all these meditation practices. There's a little bit of light yoga in one morning, and mostly we just connect with each other. And it's just being in nature without the devices. I mean, that confluence leads to a lot of magic. A lot of great stuff happens. So the next one coming up is November 1st to November 2nd. And if you are interested in that one, you should email me right away at spencer@abacuswealth.com. And if you're interested in future retreats, email me as well, and I'll get you on the Mindful Advisor list. We have one coming up in February as well, in addition to November. But a great way to just, I think of it as a vacation for it's, I don't know if you feel this, Ellen, but every time I meditate, and especially this Mindful Advisor retreat, the 24 hours, it's like a vacation from the busy mind and a vacation from everything else, from my employees, from my family. And in that space, a lot of insights get stimulated, right?
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
So I encourage all of you to reach out to Spencer, learn about this retreat. It is the one of the best things I think you can do for yourself, for your family, for your business, for your clients.
Exactly. It's not just for yourself. It will be for your clients, for your business. I mean, people have AUM grows when we cultivate this presence.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So it is a business expense. I always looked at whenever I was doing things for my personal development, I always mentally looked at the ROI. Like, do I think this is going to help me the time away? And it always, always, always did. So Spencer, I could talk to you for hours, and I hope we have an opportunity to do that. I feel like there's lots of synergies. I'm so inspired by what you do. So thank you for being here. Really so grateful for your generosity in being here.
Thank you, Ellen. You're doing such good work in the world to be impacting advisors like this. We owe you a lot of gratitude for this. Yes.
So sweet. Thank you.
Yes.
And thank you to each and every one of you listening and watching to this. Again, my name is Ellen Rogin. You can find out more about me at ellenrogin.com. And if you go to ellenrogin.com/horse's mouth, you can download my special report about what extraordinary advisors know that others don't. I have some exciting courses coming up. Please reach out to me. I also have a new book coming out at the beginning of October that Spencer was kind enough to give me an endorsement for. So stay tuned for that. It's called Messages from Money. And the question to ponder today is, how are you going to cultivate more of a beginner's mind? And remember, be great and create great every single day.